Hello everyone, it's Scott, and we're back for the top 10 common cards likely to impact Standard. So we're looking at this from the long view. Over the next 3 years, what are some cards that are going to impact Standard? And what I've done for the set is, I've done a top 10 list for each of the rarity levels. So you can check some of those out already, and we'll get the rest of them out later this week. So let's talk about the top 10 common cards likely to impact Standard. But before we do, remember to like and subscribe to get further content like this throughout Murders of Karlov Manor season, and also to get further preview content in the future. Let's get started. At number 10 is Slime Against Humanity. For 2 and a green mana, you get a sorcery, create a 0/0 green ooze creature token with trample, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is 2 plus the total number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are oozes and or named Slime Against Humanity. A deck can have any number of cards named Slime Against Humanity. So this is a card, we've seen cards like this. The most recent one was Persistent Petitioner, and there will be a deck that forms around this at some point because somebody will try to create an ooze deck. Now, is it going to be a highly competitive deck? No, but it's going to be out there. Somebody's going to be working on this kind of deck in Standard. Next, we've got at number 9, Goblin Mask Maker. For a red mana, you get a Goblin Citizen. It is a 1/2, and whenever Goblin Mask Maker attacks, face down spells you cast this turn cost 1 less to cast. So to me, the reason this is going to probably likely see some play early in this Standard season is that ability to make the cost of your face down spells 1 less when it attacks. So that's in and of itself enough value to make this playable in Standard. At number 8, we've got Tunnel Tipster. For 1 and a green mana, you get a creature that's a Mole Scout and is a 1/1. At the beginning of your end step, if a face-down creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Tunnel Tipster. Tap to add green mana. So the fact that he's a mana dork, immediately tells me that there's the likelihood that it'll see play at some point. And because it also has the benefit of when you play a face-down card, it gets a +1/+1 counter, I think that's enough to make this playable in Standard in that either disguise or cloak deck that we're probably going to see in Standard. Next, we've got at 7, Sanguine Savior. For 1, a white and a black mana, you get a Vampire Cleric. That's a 2/1 with flying and lifelink. It also has Disguise 2. 2 Orzhov mana are needed to cast it for its Disguise ability. And when Sanguine Savior is turned face up, another target creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. So because it has flying, has lifelink, it's got some evasion, I think this is something that possibly is going to see again in our Disguise deck, is a card that we could definitely see being played because that deck's going to want lifelink if it can get it, and this is a way to get that lifelink. At number 6, we've got Reasonable Doubt. For 1 and a blue mana, you get an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. Suspect up to 1 target creature. So I'd like this as a new counter spell that we're likely to see in Standard, particularly once Make Disappear goes away, because the ability to suspect a creature is valuable, and making their best creature unable to block could be very powerful in Standard, and this is a way to do that, and this is one of the few cards that makes a creature suspected. At number 5, we've got Novice Inspector. For a white mana, you get a Human Detective. That's a 1/2, and when Novice Inspector enters the battlefield, you get to investigate. So I like this because 1 mana comes into play, it's a 1/2, and then you get that clue token when it comes into play. So it's got value when it enters the battlefield, and that makes it playable in a humans deck or a detectives deck, in my mind, without any question. Next, we've got at number 4, Snarling Gorehound. For a black mana, you get a dog that's a 1/1 with menace, so nice ability on it. And whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get to surveil 1. So that surveil ability is why I think this is going to be playable in Standard. The ability to shape the top of your deck is very powerful, and you can get rid of lands or something else that you don't actually need with that surveil ability. So I like this card as something that's standard playable. Next, we've got Demand Answers. For 1 and a red mana, you get an instant. As initial cost to cast the spell, either sacrifice an artifact or discard a card and draw 2 cards. So we see spells like this consistently in standard, but it's usually just discard a card. The fact that you could sacrifice an artifact and then draw the 2 cards, I think is enough to make this more desirable to players, especially in any deck that's going to just generally create, whether it's blood token or investigate tokens. So I think this is playable in standard. Next, we've got at number 2, pick your poison. For a green mana, you get a sorcery, and each opponent either sacrifices an artifact, each opponent sacrifices an enchantment, or each opponent sacrifices a creature with flying. I think this is definitely playable as a sideboard card right now, because the ability to make your opponent sacrifice something is very powerful for 1 mana. And the fact that it's flexible enough, it can kill a creature, it can kill an enchantment, it can kill an artifact, I think makes it playable. Now, is it perfect? No, because you don't get to target something, but a lot of the time when you're doing this, your opponent probably only has 1 artifact that is important on the field, only 1 enchantment that's important on the field, maybe only 1 creature with flying. So because of that, this has the ability to take out really whatever they've put in play that is the most valuable. At number 1, we've got Gearbane Orangutan. For 2 and a red mana, you get an ape. It's a 2/2 with reach, and when Gearbane Orangutan enters the battlefield, choose 1, destroy up to 1 target artifact, or sacrifice an artifact. If you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Gearbane Orangutan. So I like this card, and I think it's the most powerful potentially of all the commons from the set, because it can kill an artifact. I mean, it is 3 mana, but you get a body and you get to take out an artifact. So I think this is certainly a card that could be a sideboard card in any red deck. And if you're already playing artifacts in general, and you've got a blood token or an investigate token that you can just sacrifice this, or even a clue token, that's going to allow you to get a 4/4 for 3 mana, and that's a really good ability. And the reach on it, don't sleep on that ability, because the ability to take out flyers as a 4/4 could be very critical in a game, because we do have a lot of flying creatures right now in standard. Alright, so that's a look at my top 10 commons from the set. Tell me if you agree, disagree, if you saw something else that I didn't see. And I will be back tomorrow with more of our series of Merz at Karlov Manor's top 10 list. We'll be talking about our rares and our uncommons as well. And we've already done our mythics, so feel free to leave a comment, and remember to like and subscribe to get further content like this throughout the rest of Merz at Karlov Manor season and into the future. Thanks. I'll see you next time.